Thank you, and it's actually a nice segue into Michael McGar, who has a very interesting business, and do you want to show the reel first, or do you want to explain it first?
Yeah, the reel is about Gettysburg. We're in development, so we launch in late June, so I'm pretty scattered. But anyway, this is a recreation of the Battle of Gettysburg, standing on the locations where the battle took place. And so it's AR, MR, it's several different things together, and we'll let the video play.
Okay, so as he was talking about using geolocation to use AR, this is an application that's in play right now.
So the usual battlefield experience or museum experience is, in a museum it's guns behind glass. People walk by and they just see gun, 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 gun. And on a battlefield it's grass, and you stand and look at the grass. And working with the Park Service at Gettysburg, they say, we see all these kids coming through with cell phones, but they're just texting each other that they're bored. And so wouldn't it be nice if we could have the kids use their cell phone and find out something about what the thing that they're doing and actually become engaged in it. And part of what we want to do too is to be able to have people understand from a human perspective what happened in this battle. So we put people into the position where somebody was when the battle happened, and you see what happened to that person in the battle. And so we have also gamified it so that kids will want to play with it. And we have an artifact hunt out on the battlefield. And you go out and you find these artifacts. So those artifacts are related directly to what happened in that part of the battle. But then that artifact is also in the museum. And so then the kid gets points for finding it on the battlefield, and then when they go in the museum, they get points again for finding the museum, and then they can cash in those points for different purchases and those types of things. One of the issues that the battlefield and the museum have is that they get something like 7.5 million people a year on the battlefield, and only about 1.2 million a year inside the museum. And they don't make money on the battlefield, they make money inside the museum. And so by creating this artifact hunt out on the battlefield, then the kids are more incented to go inside and see those artifacts inside the museum, and so we're hoping that that draws more of them in there. All this has yet to be proved out because we don't launch until the end of June, but we've had great support from the National Park Service, and we're working with the foundation to get even better support in that. Parts of this that make it challenging is that when you do history, it has to be accurate. It has to be incredibly accurate. One of the scenes that we were working on, there was a scene where they're charging out across the battlefield and there's no trees in the distance. And I look at the animations and the animators put in trees, and I go, well, there was no trees there. And he said, well, it looks so much better with trees. And I said, it would look better if a helicopter came in, but they didn't have that either. So we have to take the trees out. And they're all depressed. They're going, God, it looked great with trees. I can't. So, well, you know, that's the trouble with history. And so anyway, we started out, the first thing we did was the Battle of the Alamo. And that started when I was working with a woman who later became a business partner. And she asked me, I had done an Alamo back in 94, 95 on CD-ROM for a 4666 computer with 4 entire megs of RAM. And we had Dan Rather, Sissy Spacek, and all these famous Texans did narrations for this story. And so she asked me if I was to do that again, how would I do it? And I said, well, Pokemon just came out. Everybody kind of understood Pokemon at the moment. Wouldn't it be neat to stand next to Davy Crockett and watch him defend the fort in the battle? And she said, well, you've got to do it. And I said, no, it's too hard, it costs too much money, and it nearly killed me 20 years ago when I did the original Alamo, so I don't want to do it. And she said, oh, you're going to do it. And so she helped raise the money, and then we actually did the Alamo. And so now the next one was the Gettysburg. The Alamo is 6.5 acres. Roughly about 600 people got killed in that whole battle. Gettysburg is 7,000 acres, and on the first hour, the first day, 2,000 people got killed. So the scale is immensely different. But it's been really exciting doing it, and we're hoping to do all the rest of the Civil War battlefields and then other things like D-Day and stuff like that as we move forward.
You know, you brought up a couple of interesting things, and one is brand trust. I mean, any of it, no matter what you're doing, whether it's from back in the day or, trust me, you know, all the marbles and they look, you know, and if you've seen the Game of Thrones Starbucks cup that was in the scene, I mean, they will pick it apart and it will kill you and kill the value in the brand equity and the brand trust. So especially if you're doing something like with the Groms that people are such fans, or when you deal with fandom, especially anything you do, brand trust is very important. And by the way, what is a CD? What's a CD? So, and then you talked about scale and scalability, and you've also are scaling this into a book form.
Yes, and so what we've done too is we're creating these books that are ancillary to the story of the battle, so that you can get other perspectives. And so we have these books that if you can read through the book, and it's a beautiful illustrated children's book, like 12 years old type children's book. But if you look at it with your iPhone, then a book comes to life. And so there's a story of these people that were called contrabands, which were free blacks who lived in Pennsylvania, and they were captured by the Confederates and taken to the battlefield. And we have a story of this one kid who was captured, and he hid in a basement. And so how the book works is you see a picture of the storm cellar door in print, but when you look at it with your phone, then a Confederate cavalry soldier comes over, opens the door, and reaches down inside the book and pulls that poor kid out of the thing. And then we follow the story. And so the story of that is that 2,300 free blacks in Pennsylvania were captured by the Confederates, taken to the battlefield, used to transport ammunition to the front, and then taken back into the South and sold into slavery. And
Tragic.
It was just like 12 Years a Slave, and no one knows that story. And those are the types of things we try to uncover in creating these applications.
But it's one of the values of the immersive, besides experiencing it physically, is that we're preserving something that could get lost in translation with all the noise that's out there, to have something that people need to know our history so we can not make those same mistakes and maybe teach empathy from it.